does organized really mean in the kitchen? Because for a lot of people, formerly myself, their containers are organized, sort of. They're stacked, they're put away. There's a few missing pieces, but somehow still really annoying to use. And still one more decision, one more friction point of searching, and one more thing that your brain has to solve like 3 times a day. As in, why am I negotiating with this lid at 6:12 p.m. when I'm trying to get dinner on the table? So in this video, I'm going to show you the clutter problems that supercubes can actually solve, because we've seen them a lot, but there's a couple things you need to know before you go all in. I'm also going to show you how I've been using them for the past 2 years as a system, plus a couple of drawbacks you should know about, because this isn't just about containers. It's about whether your kitchen is trying to drain all of your energy, maybe with some of the storage containers you have. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Clutter, it's not just what you see, it's what your brain has to process. And processing stresses your brain out. And one of the most overlooked places this shows up in the kitchen is food storage. Drawers of mismatched lids, random size containers that you could use, but you actually never reach for. There's always that one container that you're not even sure what the lid goes to, but you keep it just in case that piece shows up. Just in case of what? I don't know. But it seems functional, but it ain't efficient. So when I worked as an ER nurse, we knew this, that if a system is slightly complicated, things start to break down. And not just because people don't care, but because there's too much friction. And kitchens are no different. They are probably the most complicated room in the house, just like an emergency room. We need things to run well. So a couple of years ago, I started testing something. What if I didn't need more containers? What if I just needed a system that actually worked? So for me, that ended up being supercubes. I'm going to show you about them in a second. And I'm not selling them, I'm just telling you about them. I will link them below if you're like, I don't know where these are. You'd been living under a rock. But I didn't switch everything overnight. I just started using them more, and then more, and then more. And then I realized that I was not reaching for everything else. I was reaching for my supercubes, which is saying something, because I had options, so many options, too many options. So what are these supercubes that we all keep seeing and talking about? They're great. I initially was a little hesitant, so it took me a while, but I've had them for 2 years because I got my friend Crystal's book here, Freeze Fresh. I'll link this one below. And she has everything frozen with these beautiful supercubes, and she actually uses them throughout. And I thought, you know what, that is a really good idea. And what I like them for the most, first of all, they're different than other things like this that I had bought before. Again, this is not sponsored, but I just have to show you what we're talking about. But what I like is I've seen some that are very flimsy. These are not. This is a really kind of sturdy silicone, but it also has probably some kind of like plastic in it. So it allows you to, like, you can hold it like this. It's not falling down, right? Which is great. And you can get them in different sizes. So I have the 2 cups, I have the 1 cups, and there's also little gradient markings for like halfway up, for a half a cup there. This is a half a cup, which also has markings for a 1/4 cup in it, which is nice. And I also like this one so much because I make yogurt, my own homemade yogurt, but I like to make sure that the culture that I'm using is just like a store-bought yogurt. So I will take this, fill it, freeze it, and then I can pop them out and use it to make my yogurt just with milk that I buy. I also have used tomato paste to put in here, because you know, you open a can and you're like, oh, what a waste of a can. Don't have to worry about it. You can do it with adobo sauce and chipotle peppers. I've done it with all sorts of things. The other thing that I really like is they do have these lids. You can stack them up. My favorite thing though is with leftovers, but you can also freeze different components for a recipe. Like you could freeze up if you had cooked some beans, you could put whatever. I also have done chicken stock. They're really handy for that. So that is what we're talking about. So I had these leftover scalloped potatoes, which are very unhealthy, and unfortunately were not a hit with the kids. So I am going to freeze them in this Supercubes container to save for somebody one day to eat them. If not, they will be discarded. So I'm just gonna push the last one in here, And this was in the fridge. So again, you can do this with things that you're basically like, I'm saving this from the garbage. I don't know if we're gonna actually eat these one day because my husband has high cholesterol and I'm trying not to eat that terribly. However, I have it ready to go. I can put the lid on and then I'll freeze it and then I can pop it out later, save it in the bags for the next dinner that we have with ham. The biggest shift for me was the freezer, because most freezers, they don't feel like storage. They feel like that planet in WALL-E where things are just lost forever. Random containers, weird shapes, things stacked on top of each other, and something in the back that might be from maybe 2017. Who knows? And you're like, I should deal with that, but you won't. These change that completely because they're square or rectangle or whatever. They stack. They portion automatically depending on the sizes that you use. And I like them for things like lemon juice, lime juice, little cubes ready to go, sauces or ingredients for meals, leftovers that I actually want to eat later. Even things like cottage cheese from Costco, I froze them in half-cup portions because the pancake recipe that I make, my protein pancakes, I do in half-cup portions. And so it's perfect because I got like 3 big tubs from Costco, 3 or 4. And this way, I don't have to worry about that. And I never thought I would be freezing cottage cheese, and yet here we are. I know I'm a grown-up now, and I will show you exactly how I use all of these. But the real win here, it isn't just storage, it's that decisions disappear. Instead of, do I have that? Is this still good? Should I prep it? It's just done. It's just no thinking, it's just checking. We're literally just like saving food, no digging through containers like you're on an Easter egg hunt. And that is what a good system does. It removes the thinking. Take me away, Calgon. I love it. Now, they're not perfect. They work best if you just transfer them into Ziploc bags, or you can vacuum seal them together, but they might start to stick because the vacuum seal kind of pushes things together so much. So you just do the old popsicle snap trick like you're trying to feed 2 very hungry toddlers. It's not elegant, but it works. Important before you switch and go out and run and replace all your containers. This is the part that I bet a lot of people are missing right now. It's not a full kitchen solution. This is just a freezer system. So here's the thing. They're not great for the fridge, but you can use them, but you'd have to keep the food in them and they would stay in the fridge. Now, I'm not gonna lie and say I don't sometimes freeze things in my super cubes and they stay in the fridge for a couple of weeks, but then I pop them out, throw them in some bags, and they're good to go for something else. But the benefit of super cubes is you can pop things out and reuse the forms for later. And here's the truth, you don't need a lot of fridge containers because food in the fridge should not be there for that long. Really, it should be 3 to 5 days, depending on what it is, and that's it. And if something has been in there longer, it's not a storage issue anymore. It's a life choices issue. So my system is basically using the super cubes for all things in the freezer. Yes, I do have some mason jars in there with things that had been canned. Now keep in mind, the super cubes are kind of bulky. They don't really nest, so they do take up that kind of space, but they really reduce sort of the whole lid situation. I also like to have a small set of glass containers for the fridge. That's it. No drawer chaos, no stacking towers that collapse when you breathe near them. Just simple. And once I had that, I was able to declutter so much else, so much more. You get it. This isn't about containers. It is about us trying to stop creating organizing systems that weren't designed to work well in the first place, and then wondering why it still feels hard. If your cupboards feel like more effort than they should, you just don't organize them. Give up. No, I'm not saying give up, but you can audit them and be like, okay, am I spending too much time dealing with lids? Am I frustrated? Am I fighting for things? Are there too many round things? Because when a system actually works, you stop thinking about it. And that is where the real relief comes from. So having a simple routine and a simpler home is gold. And you can check out this video right here about how the French have some great habits dialed in for an easy routine. I hope something great happens for you today. Please subscribe. There's a chunk of people who are watching all my videos and they're not subscribed. So please do that. Stay tidy and mighty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.